listening to Peak One Sports.
Welcome to the Bungalow Fight Show. I know that intro might have been a little bit wonky. I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to be professional here. So I have all the intros and the outros and the graphics and everything. We're doing it live because eventually I want to do Bungalow Sports Show live on Sunday mornings, and then you can watch the recorded version all week. And I want to do this show live on whenever we decide, and then you can watch the recorded version later. So I need to get this thing as close to not being needed to be edited. Does that make sense, people? So bear with me. The intros and outros might be wonky till I figure out the best way to do this. But Bungalow Fight Show back for another episode. Alexis, Cole, we're here. This show, as well as all the shows on the Peak One Sports Network, are brought to you by Betalytics. Go to Betalytics.com, start a profile, use promo code PEAK1, get 25% off. A lot of people are doing it. They're happy. All the Peak One nuts and the Bungalow babies are joining together and betting all of our money, and we're doing it through Betalytics.
You know what? The sites like Betalytics work really well with like baseball because and like basketball. Like there's so many stats going and there's so many games, and like there's the occasional like we're just gonna throw this game away because we won the series. We'll throw this game away. It's fine.
And
you need that.
They take that. Yeah, exactly. When you don't. You could just be going into a game. You're coming home from work, right? And you're like, "Oh, this game's on tonight. or the last game of this series is on tonight, or whatever." Like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna watch it, maybe throw a little money on it, without realizing the intangibles, that Alexis just mentioned. Where, especially in basketball, on a moment's notice, the best players on the team might be getting rested.
Yeah, the rested, and then like that, there goes your over under props, or if you're an under,
right?
But then even then, like so like, or even if it's a shutout, right, and you have the over, they take out all your starters, all the top scorers, right, and then basically if it's like let's say like a Miami Heat game, and it's a heavy like defensive game, they'll take those guys out. They're like, we won. There's no way. Right. And then they all throw in their like third and fourth string people, and they just shoot till no end. It just ruins your underplay.
Exactly. It's like if it's like in football, it happens occasionally. Garbage time they call it is like the fourth quarter, or like the end of the fourth quarter when a team is getting their ass whooped. They're just going to start throwing bombs, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of quarterbacks for a lot of shitty teams that end up having some real decent passing stats, but that's just because they were throwing rockets the whole fourth quarter because they were down by so much. You know what I mean? And so Betalytics, they'll give you all that information up front. You know what I mean? You go in there, they're going to tell you, hey, like, the reason that these odds are this way is because, this is what's going on with this team or this player or something like that. So head over to Betalytics, promo code PEAK1, get 25% off. So, saving money to make, to potentially make more money. You know what I'm saying? You can't, it's a no-lose situation there. We are also brought to you by League Swipe, leagueswipe.com. It is fantasy draft season, Alexis, and I believe you're going to be taking part in your first fantasy draft coming up.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of like just like
no. I told Joey also, right?
Yeah,
and you're going to have a leg up just because you're already used to looking at a sport in a statistical manner, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, we bet with our guts all the time, and we lose our asses in our bets a lot when it comes to the UFC. But the UFC, and I know I'm going to sound like I'm like making excuses for being shitty at betting on the UFC, but it's like, I do know a lot you know a lot, but we're so invested in the sport and invested in the fighters, and we've been watching it for so long, and we know their backstories, and we know who we like and why we like them, and who we don't like and why we don't. We know the ins and outs and everything, so it's so much harder to ignore the gut or the emotional pick.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though we know the stats, we know what's supposed to, technically happen. It's hard to ignore those emotions. But with football, honestly, like, I could give a rat's ass most of the time. Like, I just want to see a fun game. You know what I mean? Like, I could give a rat's ass who wins and loses. I tell people my favorite team's the Rams, but that's only because I was forced into picking a favorite team, like, probably going on 10 years now, but it's like I wasn't going to do the Raiders because I gave up on them as a child because my dad is a huge Raiders fan, and it was just a childhood of – it's why I didn't like football as a kid. I say it all the time. It's because he was just pissed off about it every weekend. And, so I got away from it. And then I don't know why I just have always had an aversion to the 49ers a little bit, but I think that's because of my dad's Raiders fandom.
Yeah.
Right? So then it's like – my goal then was like, okay, I'm not going to pick one of my local teams, so I'm just going to pick a team that is not going to win a championship before the San Jose Sharks, right? So I picked the worst team in football at the time, and that was the St. Louis Rams, right? And I had Chris, my buddy Chris, who's not a huge football fan, but if he's going to pick a team, he's a Rams fan. He used to wear this Rams windbreaker when he was a kid. It was weird. It was when they were the LA Rams, though, back then. When they when the franchise first started, and it was like his uncle or some shit gave it to him. And then I had another friend, Goo, and she was a Rams fan. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a Rams fan. But then they had to go ahead and win a Super Bowl, and then, nope, that's it. I'm not a fucking Rams fan anymore. You guys won before the Sharks. So the deal's off. Like, we had a deal, Rams, and you broke that deal. So now I could really care less about the outcome of most football games unless I have money riding on it. So with fantasy, it's like the best. It's like you literally can care about an entire professional sport, but only care about it because of your fantasy team, which translates into just look at it as gambling instead of like, I'm trying to beat this guy or that guy, every week. You just got to look at how you're putting your roster together and how you pick your team and how you look at things. Look at it as a gambler, and you're going to be fine because you have no emotional attachment to it, know? And I'm the commissioner of this league, and not that, we're going to do anything fishy. I would never do that. Not with fantasy. It means too much to me. But leagueswipe.com is there for you commissions out there who need help with some of the more clerical commissioner duties, This is going to be real easy on you, Alexis, this thing. I like fantasy when it's as easy and simple as possible. Yeah. Right? I don't even like playing with people that I see on a regular basis. I'm in 2 leagues where I don't see anyone.
Yeah.
Like before, like Kyle's league, my buddy Kyle, like he moved away. Like he doesn't even live in Modesto anymore. So I'm not even going to see him face to face. So now it's it's a text thread and a fantasy league. You know what I mean? So it's it's so detached. So I get to look at it as like, this is just how many ever season or months the season is, a 4-month long gambling session, right? Because granted, in the peak one, we're not going for money, we're going for the king of the network. But those are big stakes. King of the network. They're getting the crown too.
I just hope I don't go balls deep in statistics, man, because I've done it.
Well, it's gonna be different. So go balls deep in statistics if you want now before the draft. Okay, so I would suggest to you go to
because like if you're talking about like football, like after like you can do preseason, right, and you have your statistics right now, and then after the first game,
right. But the thing is so if you go you downloaded the Yahoo Fantasy app,
yeah.
Okay, so go in there to our league and you can do a bunch of mock drafts, okay, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna give you put some names in your brain at these positions of like your top 10, top 15 people at all these different positions and stuff. You know what I mean? So that's all it is. Like, we're a small league. This is going to be like a 10-team league or something like that. So it's like every team's going to be pretty well stacked with good players. there's not going to be a lot of scratch in the bottom of the barrel. Like with Kyle's league, when you get 12 man or more, like your third string wide receiver is somebody that most people, casuals, wouldn't even know his name, because when you got 12 or more people and you're picking all these players, you do get down to the third or fourth guy on the list, you know what I mean? But I would do a bunch of mock drafts. That way you have some names and you just make some notes about guys you want at certain positions. But when we do the draft, since it's online like that, Yahoo is gonna they are gonna rank. So as you go and it's like your turn to pick, or while the draft's going on, you'll have rankings of at every position. You can update, you can organize the rankings per statistic, how many points they scored in Yahoo Fantasy last year, all this stuff. And it's all while we're drafting. So like ever since we started drafting online, like back when like Kyle's league, we used to do it in person where we had a big giant whiteboard. His dad would come out. We would go to Mountain Mike's, and have the big party room. We'd have a whiteboard at the front. Everybody'd have binders with fucking paper. I had fucking paperwork and fucking all kinds of shit because it wasn't online. They didn't have as much of the shit online. Yeah. So it's
you
like
have to like print out and
exactly. You're either printing out or writing everything down. And Kyle's dad would be master of ceremonies. He wasn't in the league, but he'd be the commissioner at our draft. He'd get up there and he'd tell jokes and he'd announce the picks and all this stuff, and he'd write them on the board. And back then it's panic mode, right? Because you're looking at physical papers and you've got so much time, until your next pick. And then also you can say, I'm going to pick this guy next, but then you got 10 guys ahead of you who are going to pick, and they might pick that motherfucker. So you really...
Fuck,
right, so
scrambling and
if
shit.
you've got 2 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever your league gives you to make the pick, you're making that decision in that time frame once you get into the third round, because the first 2 rounds are going to be automatic pretty much. You're going to have your top wide receivers, your top point getters. They're all going to come off the board. So even if you wanted this guy, the guy that's your next option is just as good, kind of a thing for the first 2 rounds. So it's like... it's just, player preference or team preference or whatever. And then once you get into that third round, then you're just looking at this ranking board and you're saying, okay, I want to pick a wide receiver next. So you just filter it to wide receivers. I like to filter it to the points last year. You can filter it to the projected points this year. Just, give it a once over and then just watch them come off the board until it's your turn, So, and it's a snake draft.
Technology, man.
It's a snake draft. So that means... It's 1 to 12 and then 12 to 1. It's flip-flops every round. So if you're last pick, first round, your first pick, second round, So a lot of... Yeah, anyways. League swipe. Go to
League
it.
Swipe.
Yeah. But, dude, I love fantasy. It's fun, man, because it's like... football... It's one of those things it's almost you have to work to avoid football in this country. You know what I mean? And I've
done it for a while,
But it's hard. It's hard to avoid it. Like even if you're not interested, you're still going to see a game here and there. You know what I mean?
My birthday was on Super Bowl weekend, like in the beginning, like early '90s. So it was technically difficult. So
right. So now, as an old man with some downtime and some time to watch a football game, it gives you a reason to actually want to watch it, because it could be 2 teams you don't care about, but you're like, holy shit, I got Bijan Robinson playing for the Carolina Panthers today. Let's just turn this game on. We can see how many yards he can put up. You know what I mean? Like, and then every time they pass the ball, you're cursing them because you're like, hand it off. You know what I mean? But then you don't want him to hand it off too much because you don't want the motherfucker getting hurt, So
that's true.
So it's just, it gives you like this whole other reason to get excited. And then on top of it, money obviously, but it's all about bragging rights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've won 2 championships and I'll never forget them in my life. Team Butt Punch is, we're not a dynasty yet. We've only got 2 championships. How many championships you have to win to be a dynasty? I don't know.
I think it's like above 3, right?
But is that what it is? But then in how, like what period of time? Because I won Butt Punch. We won our first championship probably 10 years ago, and then we won our other one like 4 years ago. So it's like they're too spread out. You know what I mean? I got to put together some numbers.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, well, I guess the etymology of like dynasty, like the suffix of dy, like
Hmm.
I don't.
Now
Let's.
you're getting too educated for a fight podcast. So let's not talk about fantasy football anymore. And
right.
let's talk about the guy who owns Facebook, or should I call it Meta? Hi, welcome to Meta.
Yeah.
So Zuckerberg has left Elon in the dust. Elon, we knew this wasn't going to happen. Elon's a fat guy who likes to eat snacks, dude. He ain't going to train
Yeah.
for a fight. Why would you? You got billions of dollars. Like, fuck that. Like, you really care about fighting this other guy who's a tech billionaire just because you're both tech billionaires? You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
have your fight between Threads and X. You know what I mean? Like you can do the Twitter Facebook fight can happen, but you don't need to actually fight. But Zuckerberg, being as he's fallen in love with the sport of MMA and was training anyways, I got a graphic up here of him looking pretty shredded with Volkanovski and Izzy. I mean, shredded for the guy who created Facebook, I guess. I mean,
he's shredded, dude. He's got
dude.
more muscles than I do, man.
Oh
And
yeah, no, the dude's obviously putting in the work.
you don't have to have much to outdo me.
No,
you know?
the bar is low here at the Bungalow
Yeah.
Fight Show when it comes to our bodies, body type. But Zuck's obviously putting in the work, right? Because say what you want, I would gather to say that before COVID started, he looked more like my 8-year-old son's body type. So that's only, that's been 3 years, and he's looking like a guy who trains MMA every day. So he is talking about fighting an actual MMA fight, which I think is just a real bad idea.
I think it's a bad idea. Like going with the Elon Musk, like yes, that's a crapshoot. That's whatever you call it. But like if you look at it in like terms of like why it's intriguing, most of the time we see like what we see the UFC is like almost like modern day gladiators.
Right. It's
like,
it's what we
not,
got. Yeah.
Like lowest of the low are people that aren't like skilled. They're skilled in fighting, but they're not skilled other ways or had the worst luck or whatever. Not saying that that's what's going on with the UFC, because like a lot of those people are successful outside. Right. It's just another venture. But the intriguingness is like you're seeing like say you work for a company, you're seeing the two top you're seeing like the CEO and CFO or whatever.
Well, yeah,
fight
exactly.
each other.
And
you would like to see that, right?
Well, and as a country, we're kind of seeing. I mean, yeah, we do have a president, but you're kind of seeing the two guys who run our country fight each other. Honestly, like this is as close as you get to two presidential candidates fighting each other, right? Because you got guys that are two of the richest guys in the country, the two guys who own the biggest social media platforms that run our media, that kind of set the tone socially. One guy's going to space all the time. Say what you want about Elon Musk and that he bought Tesla and this and that, and that's all true, but he is still the owner of all these companies that are kind of changing the face of America in a technological way. And then you've got Zuckerberg who's changing us socially. So it's like it's like the two biggest names in this country fighting each other. That's insane. You know what I mean? Like
it's like I can't we need to settle this outside of the tech world. Like we need to make sure who's the king.
Right. Yeah. It's like you can keep your money, but whoever wins gets all the other guys' companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But so that's not going to happen. We knew it was going to happen.
No.
Like, my favorite was when those shirtless pics came out of Elon like a year ago.
Yeah.
And people were like talking about his body. My thing was like, first off, like, what did you think he looked like? You've seen him in a shirt, and he looks like the guy without a shirt on. Like,
yeah.
Also, he's a fucking whatever he is, a fucking engineer. He's a fucking tech guy. Like, not in the gym all day long. You know what I mean? It's also
yeah.
It was just funny to me because I'm like, shit, I would have thought he looked worse. Like, at least.
Like, do you understand? Like, people like that, like, will sit there and just like think and like conspire on like what their next move is, right. And like all their free time. And this is like at a desk or like doing work to like
Right.
doing something like writing
Well, it's
code or
like
whatever.
what Steve Jobs. He didn't
Yeah.
wear that turtleneck because you guys all thought he looked cool. Like he wore the same thing every day, and he would say that. Like he's like, I have the same clothes I have multiple pairs of the same thing, so I don't have to think about what I'm gonna wear. Like the smallest detail of here's 2 T-shirts. Which graphic do I like better? He didn't want that brain power eaten up. He wanted to be able to put that towards inventing or towards whatever. And like, so to think these, that's why like Zuckerberg, it shows that he doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with his companies, right? Because he's putting so much time into this. He's got pecs. He's got a 6-pack. He's fucking jacked, right?
Yeah.
And that shows that he doesn't have a lot to do with Meta anymore. He doesn't have a lot to do with any of these companies because he's spending all his time doing jiu-jitsu and MMA, which is fine. You got all that money. I mean, you wouldn't even have to give me that much money for me to give up my luxurious life and just go to the gym every day. Like, if I didn't have to do anything but this podcast every day, I'd be at the gym. That'd be one of my daily routines. It's just I get up at 6 o'clock. We get the kid ready for school. I go to work at 7:30. I occasionally come home early and can do a podcast, but usually I'm not home until 3:30. And then he's got practice or he's got something else. Then we got homework. Then we got dinner. And then it's like, I know other people make time for the gym, but I'm not willing to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym to come home to start all that shit.
Like, I already lose sleep as it is. Like,
well, that
like
like I go to work and I can't be all sore from doing fucking squats while I'm carrying a shower door up a staircase. So it's like, and then it's just like, well, yeah, good, you got a physical job, keeps you in shape, and it's like, yeah, in theory, but I've been doing it since I was 14, so now it's muscle memory, and I still get fat. So it is what it is. And Elon, he lives that life too. He's like, I do what I do, and part of that isn't the gym, and I will troll Zuckerberg for a few weeks here, but anybody who really thought they were going to fight, I think, is a fucking idiot. The Zuckerberg fighting a real guy, I get his aspirations, and everybody probably feels like that, after a few kickboxing classes, but I don't know.
But if you're that deep into, like, say, like, you're that deep into jiu-jitsu, like, most of those competitions, they got a live stream.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be on some screen time. You have to know your sources. And if you're that deep into the game, those sources. So eventually he's going to get seen, I guess, like, paying money wise. Like, there's a bunch of, like, there's like the Eddie Bravo invitationals, like
right.
what is it, jiu-jitsu worlds and stuff like that. He can build up to that, and he can build up to that really quick.
Combat MMA.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do combat MMA, but like he'll do like the submission only tournaments and all that stuff. Right. One thing that I would say, like, if I see Zuck training with Gordon Ryan, I'll be like, okay, this guy is trying to do something. It's probably like a bucket list thing that he's like, like a bucket list thing, but like he's found like a new love, and we're gonna see something like for a short run or whatever's left. But it'd be interesting. But
and I guess
see him
if you've got enough money to devote enough time to training to feel like as prepared as you could be, and you go out there and you get fucking slept in the first 30 seconds, then at least you did it. It's not like Zuckerberg's gonna lose any clout over getting starched or getting choked out or something, because it's like, well, yeah, that's what everybody thought was gonna happen, and then also he doesn't give a fuck. Like,
that's
like,
true, yeah.
But I mean, obviously he's gonna give a fuck. He's gonna want to win, right? Because why would you do it if you didn't think you could or wanted to win? But I just hope they don't put just because of how famous he is, that he just gets they do a UFC fight, CM Punk style instead, Zuckerberg instead of CM Punk. They do one of those things, and he gets a Mickey Gall, and it's just like, fuck.
You know what I think? Well, other than that, like I'm pretty sure like it's like the Logan Paul brothers. Or Logan brother or Paul brothers wrote the
Logan Jake brothers, Paul,
whatever. Yeah. They wrote the script on how to do it. They can obviously, like, these guys have money to throw away.
Yeah,
these guys can make it insanely epic and better with kind of like fights that you would necessarily see.
But it's kind of like
at a high school gym.
It's kind of all up to Zuckerberg, though, I would imagine, though, because if he is as obsessed with the UFC, you know, as he is. Like, he may just want to
Mhm.
fight in the UFC. It may not just be a fight. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's my thing. And I think it's obviously Dana's willing to put together shit like this. Just, you know, if fame equals a few
eyeballs.
Yeah, and the guy's got a few snapshots of him training some jujitsu, so we can sell the angle that, oh no, this guy's been training. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole CM Punk thing, was like, it was how many years of like, oh no, this guy's the real deal. You know, how many trainers and how many people saying, oh yeah, this guy's a real deal. You know, and then we saw how that career went. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just think everybody thinks they're the real deal until they get to the UFC. You know what I mean? And
that's true.
If he goes out there and he does a couple years on Fight Pass doing some jiu-jitsu tournaments and even does a combat jiu-jitsu tournament, you know what I mean? Like, and he wins some of those, then okay. But it's like, I think we're going to get a freak show fight, and we're going to get we may see Mark Zuckerberg die on television. It may, like, because Dana, and he's got it. I mean, he should be like one of the most.
Herb Dean as the ref, man.
Well,
put Herb Dean as
Dana
the ref,
should be one of the most like anti-Zuckerberg guys on the planet, right? Because he's a Trump guy, he's a right-wing guy. Facebook is the exact opposite. Da 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 da. You know, maybe he does a reverse dive and he puts somebody in there that's he puts an Ivan Drago in there that's just like, if he dies, he dies. You know what I mean? Like, he brings in some unknown Dagestani that even like the freaking super nerds like us, we never even heard of him, can't find anything on him, and the guy comes in there and just snaps Zuckerberg's neck live on pay-per-view.
They set him up with Paul Harris, who's like known for not letting go of submissions.
Paul Harris comes in and rips his fucking femur out of his hip bone. Yeah. Fucking
just leg locks him and just keeps cranking and cranking.
That was one of my greatest laments of Husamar Paul Harris's career, is that at a certain point, because it was such a funny thing on the internet, he should have just changed his nickname to Paul Harris, and he would have just been Husamar Paul Harris.
Yeah, because everybody looked at his name and they're like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh no, that's Paul Harris.
Paul Harris. That's Paul Harris. Anyways, all right, Zuck. Best of luck to you there, though, buddy. Moving on to some bad luck. Bad luck, Stephen Thompson. I'm not calling it as bad luck as I was last week when we talked about this. Because I've heard some other things and kind of looked more into the situation. And we talked about the contract clause thing, and that's another thing I kind of sticking by, of like, how the hell do you not have in your contract, like, if I show up and make weight, I get my show money. You know what I mean? Like, period, end of story. If I take a fight, then we can renegotiate. You know, if I take a replacement fight, then we can renegotiate the terms. But so obviously, Stephen Thompson's needs to fire his fucking lawyer. But also, like, some Dana came out and kind of said his side of the situation is like, I guess they offered him a fight, not just a replacement that night, but they all offered him a fight 2 weeks later, which I'm assuming is this Ian
would
Gary.
Would be last week's card. Yeah. Ian Gary.
I think it was Ian Gary.
Right.
Because that would then prompt Wonder Boy to say, no. I'm 40 years old. Like, if I want to hang on to my top 10 ranking, I can't just be jumping into a fight against an Ian Gary or somebody. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to give me a replacement, give me somebody that's, I could train for on a couple weeks' notice, rather than Ian Gary, who's like, the guy is on a rampage, you know what I mean? So you kind of want a full fight camp, I'm sure, for that, you know what I mean? And like, And Wonder Boy's hanging on at number 7, and another loss, especially to a prospect, would not be good.
Would knock him down
for his career. And at 40 years old, that kind of seals the deal on ever getting a title shot again, probably. It's like, while he's at number 7, if he can put another couple wins together, he's right back in there. Especially, if the belt changes hands or anything like that, you've definitely he's got more in the tank, and more he's got enough fame to get himself into another title shot if he can keep winning. So I understand why Wonder Boy wouldn't want to take an Ian Gary fight or a more dangerous opponent like that on such short notice. But again, you can't blame the UFC, because like Dana White basically put it, like, the dude makes $250,000. Like, we can't just pay somebody $250,000 for doing nothing.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, once he threw out the numbers, they're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Like, I get it.
The only thing that's weird to me at this point and I guess we won't know because we're not Wonder Boy and we're not whoever, the UFC lawyers, is like, is Wonder Boy saying, no, I won't take anything but my $250,000? Or are the UFC not even attempting to like make a deal, like saying, okay, we'll give you $50,000 for showing up, you know what I mean, or whatever? Because that's the thing, is like
he got his camp paid for, like they reimbursed him for the camp. But then this next fight that he's gonna be on, are they gonna be like, okay, we paid for your camp, like we're gonna dock some from your pay?
But I mean, I think the pay has to be like, that's contractual, right? You know what I mean? I don't think they can they do that per fight, change their purse, you know what I mean, per fight? Who knows? But again, I guess every contract's different. Obviously, that's why he's in this situation. Yeah. So you never freaking know. But that's what kind of like, I'm in the middle. At the beginning, I was all on Stephen Thompson's side, right? And then now, but for the same reason that he turned down a 3 pound over Michel Pereira, because that last 3 pounds is everything to a giant who cuts to 170. You know what I mean? That right there, that 3 pounds is probably Stephen Thompson's advantage, you know what I mean, in that fight. So I understand why he wouldn't take that. And then assuming he was offered the Ian Gary fight, I understand. But then I also understand why the UFC wouldn't just shell out $250K for not having a fight happen. But I just feel like it should be an easier situation to come to terms on here, because Stephen Thompson seems like a nice guy. And if you remember, he took a short notice fight against a guy named Darren Till and lost.
Yeah, and he lost. He missed weight.
No, it was a short notice. It was the missed weight. He missed weight by like 3 pounds or some shit. He missed weight by a very small margin. Wonder Boy took the fight and lost. So it's like, you can't blame the guy for not taking the fights, but then again, you can't blame the money side of it either. But why haven't they just made a deal of like, hey, here's your next fight, and then here's a little something something for you, you know? But I sure hope his next fight's not Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, no, see, I was thinking about that too, because he's like, I'll fight Kamaru Usman. I was like
why?
Why didn't you just fight Pereira? Like, you had more of a chance because Pereira is gonna stand up with you. Yeah, like Kamaru Usman just gonna wrestle you.
And
You're not
win.
gonna have no like,
and win.
We're not gonna have no wrestle agreement. And I think Kamaru Usman has more power than Wonder Boy, so that's still a dangerous matchup. Why did you just take Pereira?
And that's the thing, is what everything I just said about why he would turn down those other fights is the same reason at this point why you wouldn't take the Kamaru Usman fight unless it was for a goddamn title. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, unless they're saying you have to fight Kamaru Usman to get a title shot, or you're fighting him for the title, don't fight that guy. Like, a 40-year-old number 7 ranked Wonder Boy needs to, just like he calculated not taking these fights for calculated reasons, he needs to calculate his next opponent the same way.
Yeah.
And even though he wants to make a point about the whole weight cutting issue and all that shit, it's like, you should rebook a Michel Pereira fight, because that's the fight. That's a fight you're gonna win. But I mean, what are you gonna do, Wonder Boy? All right.
I get it. Like, whatever.
Talked about this a little bit yesterday on my first ever live Bungalow sports show. Go check it out, the recorded version on Peak One YouTube. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, our Lord and Savior with that flying knee and a six-pack, just re-signed. We just talked about him last week, pondering about what he was going to do now that he was a free agent. Was he going to take the super fight route and just move around to different places collecting paychecks and fighting random people? Or was he going to re-sign? And he re-signed a 6-fight deal, not just a regular deal either, a 6-fight deal. Yeah. So that's a long time with Derek Lewis, considering he fights once or twice a year. Yeah. That's at least another 3 years, 4 years with Derek Lewis in our lives. So that's a good thing. Yes. But does that mean he has title aspirations, do you think, the fact that he signed such a big contract?
I don't think so. Maybe he does, but like, regardless if he falls short once again, like, he's such a big name.
Oh yeah,
him being in the UFC is probably best for his brand, his marketing, every social media, right? Because like, no matter what, like, say like he has a couple. 3 wins, and then loses to Pavlovich again, and right.
Loses to
Tai Tuivasa, like we're not gonna disregard him. He still holds the most KOs in the UFC.
Right, he's like moving
yeah.
into that like Diaz category of like it don't matter if they fucking win or lose. It don't fucking matter at all. Like they're not gonna
he'll
lose.
Be in the Hall of Fame.
They're not gonna lose any fans because of a loss, kind of a category. And I think you're right about that. And I think that's like it's like one of two things. I mean, he did show up with a freaking 6-pack and start the fight with a flying knee. So like.
Yeah.
Maybe we are going to see a bigger, faster, or smaller, faster, stronger, I should say, Black Beast and somebody who wants to get that title. Maybe he's just like, like you said, like this is the best place for me to make money outside of the cage is to keep my name in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I can also, I'm sure his per fight purse is pretty hefty at this point in his career and with his following. And that's like a guaranteed thing, you know what I mean? It's as close to a guarantee you're going to get in mixed martial arts as a UFC, 6-fight UFC contract where every fight is contracted to a certain money amount. You know, if he was to take his free agency outside and say, oh, one wants you to fight fucking Fedor and Bellator wants you to fight fucking, you know, we're going to dig Butterbean up. We're going to dig Butterbean out of the grave and you're going to fight, you know, whatever. Like, and I'm sure they'd cut you a pretty hefty check for each of those fights, but could you string together 6 of those before you want to retire when in the UFC you're guaranteed 6 of those? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get it. But shit, Black Beast, UFC champ 2024, dude. I'm calling it right now.
Well, dude, no, actually, okay, so the one matchup I do want to see is him versus Cyril Gane.
Yeah.
Has that happened? That hasn't happened, right?
Nope, and he could knock his fucking block off, dude.
Yeah.
And if you think
about...
no,
wait, I think it did happen. Hold on. I think it did happen.
Did it? Are we stupid?
Yeah, I think he...
But, like, if you think about, like, John Jones, let's say John Jones beats Stipe and retires, like, I was kind of reminiscing, you know, a month ago saying that this fight's in New York. It's his home state. He's fighting, you know, one of the arguable heavyweight GOATs. He defeats him in his home state. John Jones retires. Now that heavyweight division is kind of wide open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And wide open for a big old puncher like Derek Lewis, who you put him against anybody. If they can wrestle him to death, he's going to lose. But if they stand up with him for a whole fight, you got 5-5-minute rounds of Derek Lewis being able to knock you out with one punch. So,
okay. So he did lose to Cyril Gane by TKO.
Oh, that's right. It was like an elbow or some shit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Run it back.
Yeah.
Run it back. He's got a 6-pack now.
Honestly, like if we're looking at his record, like Derek Lewis needs to take back that Spivak win because we don't need that Russian or I don't know where he is. I should stop right there. But like we don't need
whatever he is. One of those red countries.
If you're not Pavlovich or Tai Tuivasa, like in your Sergey, like I don't know, man. Like there's something about him I don't like.
Yeah,
like,
well,
he's won me some bets, but I just don't like that guy. So
he's fighting Cyril Gane, right?
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, so automatically I'm going towards Cyril Gane, but I think the actual play is Spivak when it comes to the time.
Well, there you go, dude. Yeah. John Jones wins, retires. Spivak beats Gane. We got a Derek Lewis Spivak rematch for the vacant heavyweight title.
There we go.
There you go. I'm doing your job for you, fucking UFC. All right. Moving on. You wanted to talk about the class action lawsuit.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, we've been talking about like I've been pushing this whole like the fighter pay, saying like it's not that much different. I guess it's like really going on now. Yeah.
So I've got a cool little graphic here that I just pulled up. It's got some of the big names involved. There's what, like 124 fighters or something like that, or more than that. So there's like a lot of fighters involved in this. The main guy who's actually, it says that if you read it in the graphic, who's on the docks is Kung Lee. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys involved in this, and I'm like, I don't know the ins and outs, but this thing's been going on for like 5 years at this point. Or if not more, shoot. I mean, I don't know. These things do take time, but now, like you said, it seems like it's actually getting somewhere now.
So, I mean, w- I don't know, like what they're talking about, like UFC buying out competition, like to get rid of
Other fighters'
like the
contracts and
other
shit.
fighters' contracts or something like that. I I'm still on the fence on like I do want these fighters to get more pay.
Right.
Um, but to say like let's go back to like football, like where these draft when they get drafted, they get these like insane amount of contracts, right?
Right.
Like, but that's all they say. Like, no one mentions that they have to play a certain amount of games. Like, they're
Oh
getting
yeah,
paid a lot.
people just see that number. They don't see that there is literally a paycheck they get for a certain amount for every game that they show up to. And if they don't show up to
Yeah.
that game for some reason, they don't get that paycheck. It's just like you. If you don't show up for work, you don't get a paycheck. It's not like
Yeah.
somebody signs a $100 million sports contract and somebody cuts them a $100 million check. No, it's broken up into game per game. It's broken up into statistical bonuses. It's
Yeah.
broken up into all kinds of different shit. But all that comes with a union, not a lawsuit. That's where I'm kind of
Yeah.
torn with this thing, right?
Yeah, and like I've always been saying like and like the whole like NFL thing, like the contracts we thrown out. I was like, I'm pretty sure with math involved, like you run numbers. I'm pretty sure like per fight they're probably getting almost equal or maybe a little less
Right.
than what those numbers playing, because he's saying like what these guys are playing maybe 40 games, 50 within the year, like the season or whatever, and these guys are fighting 3 or 4 times a year max.
Right. Right.
Or
No, it is.
twice or once.
It's a different sport, but again, that's why like it is like I said, the lawsuit is what it is. They're going for whatever it is they're going for because it's a bunch of guys who are past their prime, that are not fighting anymore. They used to be a name and they feel like they should have made more money while they were in the UFC. Right?
Yeah.
That's you're always going to have that disgruntled employee effect to these guys.
Yeah.
But that's why all these sports have a union, right? That's the only way that this is going to get solved is if the same way that like Jake Paul somehow puts together, he pays everybody fairly on the cards that he puts together, and he basically is kind of laying out how everything else needs to go, but he's one person, right? He's one entity, his company. The UFC, they've got a nut they've got to make, right? So it's just like the NFL. It's just like anything else. It can't just be the promoter shelling out a shitload of money like Jake Paul. No. Like it has to be, like it has to be a union. It has to be, and there has to be a say. Okay, when you become a fighter, you got to join this union. It's just like the fucking actors, writers striking right now. It's just like every sports, sports league that has had a lockout, NHL has missed seasons, had half seasons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because they're arguing for their contracts, like and the types of contracts that the teams are allowed to give. So basically there just needs to be a union who delegates, okay, UFC won all
Yeah.
but that's another problem is MMA is worldwide, right? These other sports are they adhere to the laws of the United States. You can't
That's true. Yeah.
It would have to be a UFC union. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Because you couldn't just do straight up MMA and it's everybody around the world.
Yeah, it's pretty much like you guys all have to move in states. Your camp or whatever all has to move here. And then I think it could be a little more like situated out that way. You can't do that. This way.
No, and it's always going to be like I said, even though it feels like professional athletes are just working for a company, it's like they're not. They're still contracted athletes, right? We all know they all get paid different. But again, that's because it's all a United States based thing. So I guess Bellator's a US company, you know what I mean? UFC's a US company. There could be anything that is a company based in the United States has to be governed by this. The fighters of this are part of this union. This is the way you have. This is their minimum pay. It's the same thing with like a construction union. You get a construction union job, there is a minimum pay. Your company can't say, "Oh, you're new, you're getting minimum wage." It's like, no. He joined this union, so that means you have to pay him this much to start out. You have to give him this health care, whatever else. And I mean, that can all be done. but the UFC has something so close to a monopoly to even have them in the same conversation with another fight promotion and, wrapped up like that.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I don't see a union happening. It sucks, but I just don't see an answer to this. UFC is too powerful, and they got the mouse behind them, which is the most powerful. So
Yeah, especially like with the maybe before this class action lawsuit would have had like maybe it's like 5 years too late.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of cat's out of the bag now. There's enough fighters in the UFC that are making enough money that they're happy enough to not go out and strike. You know
but
what I mean?
Think like even going like back to like you look at boxing, like if you're not A side or B side like on the marquee or unless you're like the what is it? Co-main,
right?
You're not getting paid those numbers that they throw out. Like,
but again, that's the whole thing.
Right?
That's they're not unionized either, right? They have the All-E Act or whatever, but it's not a union. You know what I mean? It's not a freaking union. Union is a totally different animal when it comes to how people get paid, and the UFC doesn't want any part of that because they want to spend their money like they want to spend their money, not how someone else is telling them to. But Kung Lee trying to get in those pockets still, though. What else we got here?
We'll see how it goes.
All right, we gotta get in this breakdown, but I wanted to bring up Izzy Strickland. Obviously, we talked about them fighting already. It's confirmed now. They are going to fight, and Izzy came out yesterday in an interview and was basically like, because they're asking him like, what was the holdup? Because it seemed like it was put together, then it wasn't, then it, like it fell apart, then blah blah blah. We assumed it was money stuff, but he says that it was the UFC there's probably still are worried about Sean Strickland embarrassing them, because obviously getting a title fight, that gets you a lot more media and a lot more mainstream media, and he says a lot of crazy shit. So Izzy's saying that it was a little bit held up. They were looking possibly trying to get another opponent, and that's probably Dricus falling out while he's on bad terms with the UFC now is probably they wanted him to step up and take it so they didn't have to give it to Sean Strickland, give Sean Strickland a chance to lose again.
Yeah.
But Dricus is like, nah, I got to be healthy before I go into a camp for Izzy. And they're like, okay, well, fuck you. All right, Strickland, you get it, but you better, don't say anything fucking racist, bro. Like,
I don't know. Okay, so like, Sean Strickland as a person, I don't like him, but honestly, his shit talking and all that stuff, like,
it doesn't bother me
that much. I don't think it's that much more crazy than Izzy.
No, but I think this country, dude, it now and forever will always be split between red and blue from now on. And even though Izzy is not from this country, he represents a more liberal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And Sean Strickland represents a real red lifestyle. And that's to the casuals, to the people that this media shit, it doesn't matter to me and you what he says or what anybody says. I just want to see the fucking fight. You know what I mean? But to the casuals and the people that they're trying to get the money from, they already got our money or our eyeballs or whatever you want to say. Like, to get the other people, they're just going to have to bank on people hating Sean Strickland enough because of what he says leading up to this that they're going to tune in to watch Izzy knock him out. All right. I know. Moving on to topics related to this weekend's card. Aljamain Sterling announced yesterday that if he wins, he's out, and that means out of the bantamweight division. And we kind of alluded to that last week on saying that he's moving up eventually anyways when it relates to O'Malley and Merab in the top of the division right now. And that's what he said. He said he wins this fight. He's moving up to featherweight after this, so...
honestly, like I think like he would do good at that weight. Like
he's huge,
regardless
he's
of whatever happened
to
Jan, whatever happened with the Jan, and like I wrote him off, but like I'm not writing him off anymore. He's legit. Aljo won me over, man. That's what I want. That's what I want to say with a lot of fighters.
You're right, and he's not a guy who's relying strictly on knocking people out or anything like that. He's a guy who relies heavily on his grappling, so that is going to fit right into featherweight. He's not going to have to worry about, I got to stand up with these guys because that's all I've got. You know what I mean? He's like, no, he's competent standing, and he can take almost anybody and get him to the ground. And once he gets you down there, like he's a choke master, dude. So, that will translate to 45 if he can get past Sean O'Malley this weekend, which is what we're talking about now. This weekend, dude. UFC 292. Sterling O'Malley coming to you live from the Boston Garden, baby.
Yeah.
It's a big one. I was planning on trying to do a fight night live. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that off, but I promise I'll go live on TikTok for the co-main and the main, the 2 title fights will go live. And I think on TikTok, Alexis and I can go live with each other at the same time. So maybe we'll do something like that, and just give our 2 cents as we probably watch our money go down the drain. But let's break down some of these fights and get the hell out of here, dude. This is a good show.
Yeah.
We put together a good show. Congratulations. All right. Leading it off, the
Congratulations
prelims.
to you as well.
We got Marina Moroz, Ukrainian baddie, going up against Karine Silva. Flyweight bout, women's flyweight bout.
Yeah.
Moroz coming off a loss. Silva coming off a win.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you got here?
Dude, oh man, Silva's
Silva's a
finisher.
favorite. She's a favorite.
She's a straight grappler. Like dude, there's something about her that she always ends up in a submission. She's really in decisions. So, I mean, I'll pick her to win.
Yeah, I like her too.
Moroz is good. Yeah.
Moroz is good, but she when she first got in the UFC, she had some flashes of.
Oh wait! I'm talking about the wrong one. Never mind.
Oh.
Whoa.
You were talking about the other Silva.
The other Silva,
Natalia Silva, in the next women's flyweight bout. That's right after this one.
Oh wait, no. Wait. No, wait. Okay, never mind. Okay, Karine Silva. Yes, she still has a bunch of submissions in her game. Moroz has a bunch of decisions though.
And Moroz is seems like, the women's division isn't old, but it feels like she had a name a little bit ago, and she's kind of just been on a roller coaster. And Karine Silva is on a totally opposite trajectory, so I see this as a submission finish for Silva.
Yeah,
because Marina Moroz is a striker too.
Yes,
and yeah, so I think
she comes up and ruins parlays every once in a while, like
right.
But yeah, I feel like Silva, like,
oh, okay. So now that I'm looking at the UFC website here, the way we've got Karine, she has all finishes.
Yes,
and she's won 56% by KO, 44% by sub. Average fight time is only 4:28.
Yeah.
And then we've got Moroz, who has barely any KOs. She's got half her fights are subs, 36% decision, and basically 13 minutes. So basically a whole fight. Her average fight time is 13 minutes. So that's basically she's a decision queen, and Karine is a finisher. So I see Karine choking that ass. Choking it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these others. Yeah, everything seems to be going Karine Silva's way in that one. Moving on, another women's flyweight bout. Andrea Lee, famous for having a Nazi boyfriend. She is coming up against the child-faced Natalia Silva. Andrea Lee coming off a loss, Natalia coming off a win. They're very evenly matched. Again, though, Andrea Lee she's a decision lady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Natalia Silva, I mean, she's pretty even across the board when it comes to everything, it seems like. She's got like a 1 knockdown per fight average, so that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So
Andrea Lee gets hit and she has to like she changes up her game plan pretty well. Um, she I'd say like if she does her like chain wrestling, I think she might have
Right.
something, but
But I mean, if you just want to go off
outweighs her.
of Las Vegas, Natalia Silva's a minus 355 favorite here, to a plus 280 dog in Andrea Lee. So if you think Andrea Lee can grapple her to a decision, by all means take that money line. But I think I'd just go straight money line on Natalia Silva if you're gonna put money on it.
Yeah.
Moving on. Couple exciting fighters actually in the middleweight division. For these being on the early prelims, Andre Petrosky versus Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert had a good run, and then kind of started getting beat up a little bit. And I mean, he got knocked? He was one of the Hamzat's victims, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was his lone middleweight victim so far.
Yeah, Meerschaert has like, unless you're really elite, like Meerschaert takes you out.
Right.
I like Petrosky, but dude, what is it? Joe Meerschaert spoiled Bruno Silva's coming out party.
Yeah.
Gerald Meerschaert is submission artist. He'll club and sub you. That's his game plan.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Meerschaert.
I am too, and just looking at their percentages here, Petrosky's never won a fight by decision. So if you think the fight's gonna go a long time, don't bet on him. And like you said, Meerschaert's a submission machine. I mean, he's won 77% of his wins are by submission. And yeah, he's like Meerschaert's like a second round submission type fighter. You know what I mean? Give him a round.
Yes.
To maybe let you punch yourself out a little bit, get a little bit tired. Second round, early first round, he takes you down, grinds you to the bell. Second round, he comes out, takes you down early, grinds you for a few minutes, and subs you. You know what I mean? And
this is one of those like you take what is it if you're that about that life, you take Petrosky in round 1 and you take Meerschaert in round 2.
Right.
Like,
Petrosky's Petrosky's a minus 258 favorite. So if you're thinking like we are, and Meerschaert is gonna do it, man, he's a plus 210 dog. So get a money line and a sub bet on that one. I might do both of those.
Meerschaert, like honestly, like he was a underdog against Bruno Silva his last outing. That was at the San Diego card. Pretty much like knocked him or like stunned him and then submitted him easily.
Right.
And everybody in the front row that had their bet tickets on Bruno Silva in their parlays were screaming.
They were like, no. All right. Moving on to the regular prelims. Starting off, we got the finals of one of the finals of the Ultimate Fighter, the lightweight finals. Austin Hubbard versus Kurt Hollabaugh. They're both coming off UFC losses from years ago, because UFC they only count their fights as wins and losses on here. So no, these guys both couple UFC vets. If you hadn't listened to us or watched the Ultimate Fighter, it was prospects versus vets. The veterans dominated Michael Chandler's team, won all but one fight. And both these guys, they were both. I mean, neither of them are gonna blow your hair back. Still, it was almost kind of like a wasted season of the Ultimate Fighter to me, right? Because they're not. They're gonna have the same same career as they had the first time in their UFC. They're gonna come in. They're gonna have this fight. Whoever wins this is gonna. And knowing the UFC, they're gonna give the loser a goddamn contract too.
Yeah.
It just won't be for as much money. But they're both going to come in, and they're going to get like a 3-fight contract. They're going to win 1, lose 2, and then they're going to be gone on their third loss. And then I feel like that's how it's going to go. I mean, you have any thoughts on this fight? I really don't, honestly.
I don't have any thoughts. We're just going to watch it how it plays out. I guess it's going to be like they're both going to be in the UFC, right?
Right.
High percentage wise.
Yeah. And
I'd say I think the next one we're just gonna be like this is a watch only. We're gonna see how they do.
Just whoever wins this in 18 months will be leaving the UFC with a 1-2 record.
Yeah,
They won't get another contract. That's what I see happening right here.
yeah.
You know, fast forward to this time next year, and we're going to be talking about them fighting for their job on their next fight.
Unless it's like insanely like violent and amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
fight,
obviously, but I guess time will tell. We will find out.
Just look for a good fight in this one.
Moving on, we've got
take a break.
We've got the entertaining Gregory Rodriguez versus Dennis Tiuliulian. Tululin. There's a lot of I's and a lot of U's involved in that name, but he is a Ruski. So always hard to go against a Ruski, but he looks like one that I'd want to bet against, though. He doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't strike me as very intimidating. What do you think about this match?
I'm taking Violent Barack Obama here.
Violent Barack. I like that, dude.
I like Rodriguez. Like he had that crazy third eye, like in the last fight that he had.
Yeah, I remember that big giant cut, dude. This makes me wish I had my soundboard with my Obama clips on it from his audiobook. Get your own damn fries. Get your own damn fries. So I agree. I think Violent Barack is gonna fucking eat this guy's for lunch, dude.
I mean, Dennis Tululin like had a couple showings, but like what is it? I remember last time he was an underdog, and he won. Well, he won against Jamie Pickett, but everybody wins against Jamie Pickett.
I mean, Tululin's a finisher, dude. I mean,
he's
got a bunch of KOs.
So is Rodriguez.
Yeah. They both get about a knockdown and a half.
Yeah.
Per fight.
I think attributes are in Rodriguez's favor, though.
Yeah, and I mean he's a minus 345 favorite, so that's pretty hefty to a plus 275 dog. So yeah, I know we're not just straight up odds guys, but when they're that heavy, Las Vegas doesn't like to fuck around. So I advise you to go with us and go with Greg Rodriguez. Yeah. All right, featured fight on the prelims. This is a middleweight heavy card, man. Yeah. Another middleweight bout. This would be a cool one. We got the tried and true Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares, couple of veterans, former champ versus a guy who never got a shot at the title. Both coming off losses. They still both got single-digit losses in their record. Brad Tavares, he loses this fight, he's got double and double. So this is a big fight for Tavares. I might go for Tavares just based on the fact that he don't want 10 losses.
Yeah, dude, this one's tough.
It is a tough one, but I mean, Weidman. Nobody's ever the same after their leg snaps in half. When are we gonna figure that out?
Oh yeah, exactly. So we're talking about this. Like we're looking at Connor. We're looking at Connor with the almost same injury,
right?
And that
like he's gonna just be same old. Yeah, not gonna happen. I don't
know. Like I thing is like, okay, so there was one strike thrown in Weidman's last fight against Uriah Hall, and that was the leg kick, and that's what broke Chris Weidman's wet leg. So like,
right.
Generally, he's been off for 2 years. He did go to the camp, but like he didn't really finish that fight. Like it didn't go very long.
And you know what's funny about the two of these guys is they're very similar fighters, kind of. And then also, their statistics are so similar. It's crazy, dude. Strikes landed per minute, 3.03 and 3.32. Significant strikes, 43%, 42%. Absorbed strikes per minute, 3.1 versus 3.06. Defense, 52 to 56. It's like, stand up, they're the exact same guy.
Yeah.
But Tavares is a plus 270 fave. I mean, a 220 dog for Weidman might not be a bad pick, though. Because Weidman can out-wrestle Tavares, that's for damn sure.
Yeah. And I think if you look at attributes or whatever, like, Weidman's always going to have that, regardless. even though he says he's gonna come in and throw a kick,
No, he's not.
dude, that's exactly what he said. I'm just like, you know what? Like,
Well,
don't do it. Wrestle, man. Wrestle.
yeah.
Do what brought you to the dance,
You
man.
should not
Come
have
on.
said that, because now I'm gonna place some kind of weird prop on Chris Weidman's leg breaking with his first kick. Like he goes out there and throws a calf kick and his fucking leg snaps in half.
It can't break again. It's gonna hurt like hell, but it can't break again.
Why? Because he's got a metal plate in there.
Yeah.
It'll just break right next to the metal plate, dude.
Oh, it'll break at the seam or whatever.
Yeah, where the screw went in, it'll just crack. But yeah, dude, I don't know. This is a toss-up for me. I know they got Tavares.
I think I'm gonna stay away from this fight.
I think so too. I mean, they've got Tavares as a heavy favorite, makes it really enticing. But
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm not confident enough in that one to put some muns on it. Oops, wrong one. Moving on to the main card, bantamweight bout: Marlon Cheeto Vera versus Pedro Munoz. A couple of just dogs, dude.
Yeah.
I know Cheeto's coming off a loss, but again, he's at a point in his career where he's impressed me enough, and most people enough that a loss isn't really going to define him. And one of those guys who, when he says he's going to come back better, you kind of believe him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Both got kind of an identical record, 20-8, 20-7. I don't know. What do you see here, man? I think Marlon takes this one. That's where my gut's going.
Yeah, I think that too, but I think there's like a big thing that I'm like really worried about is that Pedro Munoz just goes to his ground game.
Just grapples the shit out of him.
I still have yet to see. Okay, so let's look at Marlon Vera's fights. Like, yes, he has impressive knockouts, but if you look at those fights, he's pretty much getting beat up until, like, Marlon Vera is pretty much losing until his knockout.
Right. Or, yeah, exactly, or a submission or something like that.
Yeah, so like you look at like him and Dominic Cruz, like he was losing every round, knockout Dominic Cruz. Before that, he was kind of losing to Sean O'Malley in the striking, and then Sean O'Malley got an injury, and then
interestingly enough, Cheeto has a higher submission attempt average than Pedro.
Than Pedro Munoz.
But Pedro 81% takedown defense. That's pretty damn good. Cheeto's got 69% takedown defense, so that's pretty decent too.
But you know what? I think Cheeto's gonna want that Sandhagen rematch,
right?
And I'm pretty sure like he's one of those people that he's gonna come back. He's gonna look for that knockout. I'm gonna go for him. Pedro Munoz, man. I think I've been watching him for a long time. And
I've never been super impressed by Pedro Munoz. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He's just never really been like, oh, I gotta bet on that guy. But it's it's pretty close betting wise. Money line's close. 154 dog for Munoz, 185 favorite for Marlon.
Yeah, honestly, like it's not much of a win for Marlon Vera if he wins, but it's a lot bigger of a win if Pedro Munoz wins.
Oh yeah, big time.
So
big time. All right, moving on. Bantamweight division. Damon Blackshear, Mario Batista. We're talking about old Damon again.
This guy, dude. Okay, so I took Damon Blackshear freaking sub prop last week, and it came through in a fashion where he was the third twister ever finish in the UFC.
I know. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Mario Batista, dude. I don't know. Like that short notice of a fight, like he didn't take that much damage, but I don't know how like you have a quick turnaround.
Like that.
To see that
happens.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Mario Batista is a heavy favorite, minus 298.
But they're both submission dudes, so this might. So like.
It's gonna be a grappling match, probably, or a stand-up, straight stand-up.
Yeah, it's gonna be a stand-up fight. Yeah. So who has the better? I think going off
know.
of like the resume
think-
thing, I think it's Damon that has the better strike.
I think you got to go back to back Damon victories, dude. I don't know how you can't go for that. You know what I mean? This is some, crazy level shit here where he's doing a 2-week turnaround. That's very, that's only happened a few times in the UFC. Next one's pretty interesting. Welterweight bout between Ian Machado Gary and the Gazelle Neil Magny. Ian Gary's on a tear, 12-0. He's like the new it guy. He's our new Irish guy.
Yeah, he's taking Connor's place.
He took his wife's last name and added it to his. So he's got the female crowd.
Simp.
You know what I mean?
Simp.
Like, do you think? Because isn't her dad like his jiu-jitsu coach? You know what I mean? Isn't he a Machado, of the famed Machado? So it's like, how do you know he took it from his wife? Maybe he took it from his father-in-law. All right.
I think he took it from his wife.
Yeah, you
what?
bitch.
Like, I don't know. Like I think like the more
I can tell.
feminist
See, guys,
approach is letting your wife keep her last name instead of having you
I've been
give
talking
her your last name.
I've been talking with Alexis about fights for many years now, and just like he said with Aljo earlier, where you said like he finally won me over. Alexis is yet to be won over by Ian Machado Gary, and I could tell just by the way he talks about him. Because if you just look at his fights, just aside
great.
Aside
great,
from everything else, you should be a fan. But there's something about this guy Alexis don't like, and I can tell. There's something about him. He just doesn't like him, and that's because as soon as his opponent, this is a last minute opponent, Neil Magny jumped in. Alexis texts me, well, get ready for Ian Gary to get wrestle fucked, and that may happen. I mean, we're gonna see Ian Gary's jiu-jitsu game against a really good grappler in Neil Magny. Neil Magny is the wet blanket of the welterweight division, dude. He is that dude.
Yes, he is.
Who, he seems like a nice enough guy. He's Black Skeeter from Doug.
Skeeter Valentine.
Yeah.
If you're from the 90s and watch Doug, you know exactly what we're talking about.
He's Skeeter, dude. And so I don't hate Neil Magny at all. He's just not one of those guys who blows your hair back. But he will definitely throw a wet blanket on a hype train. You know what I mean? He'll be the cow on the tracks that fucking derails the hype train, dude. And this might be the night for Gary to get a little bit of humility. Because we know Neil Magny's got a gas tank for days, so he'll be in the fight for the whole thing, and he'll be stronger in the third, or at least have more wind in the third than he did in the first, probably. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like Ian's got to finish him. I think Ian's
got to start quick. Mm-hmm. He can't. He's got to barrage him. I mean, I think Phil Rowe had more of a striking than Ian Gary. Ian Gary's still like great striking, but if looking at like tape and stuff, I think Phil Rowe had a lot more.
He was a little more impressive on the feet.
Not like impressive, but more experience and stuff like that.
More experience, yeah.
Neil Magny eats shots, so that's pretty scary. That first one's gonna be pretty scary. And
that's what I'm saying. I think if Ian doesn't finish him quick, it's going to be a long night for Ian. Not saying that he can't win. Like I said, if we see him in this dogfight against Neil Magny and he pulls out a wrestling match win, then Ian Gary's the real fucking deal. If you can out wrestle Neil Magny, if you can beat Neil Magny in a decision, you don't get excited about a lot of decision victories, but a decision win versus Neil Magny is a big fucking deal because that means you got a gas tank. That means you can wrestle. You know what I mean? So I'm sure Gary wants to finish, and I think his best chance of winning is a finish. But, if he can pull out a decision win, I would be just as impressed by that just because of his opponent,
Yes. With that being said, I'm taking Neil Magny.
Hell yeah! The Gazelle, baby! All right. Co-main event, title fight, women's strawweight bout. Wiley Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. And, I mean... Wiley Zhang's she's gonna pound it out, baby. She is just I can't go against her, man. I know she's lost.
No.
I know she's not undefeated and all that stuff. But when she comes correct, dude, there's not a lot of women that can beat her, I don't think. And I definitely don't think Amanda Lemos can do it. I just, no, I don't think she's not the one.
No. Willie Zing. There's nothing else. Like, dude, Amanda Lemos got choked out, standing guillotine or whatever, or no, standing, I don't know what it was, by Jessica Andrade. Remember that?
Yeah, that was a guillotine. I think it was a standing guillotine. I want to say. I don't know.
No, it was something different because they were like chest to chest.
Oh, it was like an arm triangle, a standing arm triangle.
Yeah, standing arm triangle. There.
Yes. I remember that. And
chest. That
if Jessica Andrade does that to you, once Wiley gets her hands on you, she's gonna go flying, dude. Like,
yeah,
Wiley is so strong. Her wrestling is so powerful. Her striking she throws powerful shots. I think she's better at every aspect of the game than Amanda Lemos.
And like, look at this, like their record, like, dude, there's such a drop in like that experience.
Oh yeah,
So like unless you're Rose, like, and I honestly think Rose doesn't beat her next time around.
I think that was a blip for Wiley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that was, everybody has those. George St. Pierre had one. Everybody's had one. You know what I mean? And that was, I think, her blip, and I think she holds that belt for a long-ass time. So, I mean, the UFC doesn't have the odds up, but I got to believe Wiley is she's definitely high hundreds of a favorite, I'd imagine, in this one.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the main event, dude. We talked about it a little bit already. Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley, bantamweight title with a win. Aljo's moving up to featherweight. I guess that means with a loss he won't be. I don't know, but feels like he should move up either way.
I think he said win, lose, or draw. He's moving up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. There you go. There's me just reading the headline. What do you think, man? I think Aljo runs away with this one.
I think Aljo runs away with it too.
You know, I mean, not taking anything away from Sean O'Malley's stand-up. He's obviously got tremendous stand-up. He's a skinny dude who hits like a big giant dude, you know. But Aljo is crafty enough on the feet to not get hit early, and once he gets his hands on Sean, I just think it's a wrap. You know, it may not be a first-round submission, but I think it's gonna be a submission in the second. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of how this is gonna play out?
Dude, okay, so there's only two things. I'm kind of gonna do like, well, I'm not gonna go like extreme, what I wanna see or whatever.
What you want to see? What do you think you're gonna see?
What do I think is gonna happen? Okay, so this is going off of like best win scenarios, right? So like Aljo's like take him to the ground immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately take his back, sub him. That's Aljo's clear path to victory. Less damage to get the fight over with. Right. Sean O'Malley's path to victory is using Aljo's path to victory to time something coming in.
Right. That's all. That's what he's gonna have to do is time a takedown, time Aljo coming in and trying to get chest to chest with him.
Like a knee or whatever.
Knee, uppercut, elbow, something that something sneaky that hits him on the way in. Doesn't have to knock him out cold, but just get him rocked enough to where he can land a couple other shots. That's really his only chance, because Aljo's can wrestle the fuck out of everybody.
Or unless Sean O'Malley has takedown defense that he didn't use before, or like he worked it and maybe he'll have it to where it doesn't work. I don't know, man. Like,
right. I mean, Aljo
or get up on the fence where Aljo like holds you on the fence and you just strike with your elbows against Aljo,
right,
like, on the head. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still going Sterling. I see a bigger percentage wise for.
Oh, definitely. Sterling. I think that's the safe money. He's a bit of a favorite. They're like 2-something to 2-something, fave and dog. And O'Malley's probably going to beat the next guy in line. That's why I said I feel like even if O'Malley loses this one, he gets another win under his belt, he can fight for the vacant title left behind, or, you know, fight the winner of whoever fights for the vacant title, which might be like Merab and fucking, you know, maybe Cheeto if he wins. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And then that would be a big fight. Let's say Cheeto wins the vacant title, then you could do O'Malley Cheeto as a rematch for the title. I mean, the division will continue on, and O'Malley's not going to lose any face with a loss, especially with Aljo moving to another division.
No.
But I just don't see him winning this fight.
Me neither.
All right, dude. It's time for the picks, and then we got to get the hell out of here. Let's see. Last week we went 5-3, buddy.
We did.
Too shabby. And then people saying, "Oh, you lost 3," but it's like in betting in general, in sports betting in general, if you're over 50%, if you're over 500, you're doing good, baby.
You're doing
and in
good.
MMA,
and there's one dog in there, so you're so that's like counts as 2 bets right there because you're getting even money back.
And in MMA, the percentages are way more skewed because it's way harder to pick winners. So. What are our 8 fights? What are our 8 picks,
so
Alexis?
I'm gonna go Sterling,
right?
Zhang, Magny, Vera, Rodriguez, Mershart. How many is that? 1, 2.
That's 6.
3, 6. Damn. Okay, Blackshear.
Yeah. Oh, I love that one. Blackshear. One more. We got to do one more. We already got Mearshart.
Yeah, we already got Mearshart. All right, let's go.
Corinne Silva, first fight of the night? No?
Corinne Silva, yeah. First fight for play. Let's get hurt. Let's get hurt. Yeah.
Let's do it. Start off with a bang.
Yeah.
Follow us because right now, buddy, we're sitting at 13-4, and that's just 2 weeks worth of picks. That's some money won there, people, if you were following us. And remember, we'll specify a prop bet if we think it's a good idea. If we're just sitting here talking about props and talking about things, don't take that as advice. We will specify, just like we said with who did we specify? You know, an Aljo sub.
Aljo sub, Corinne Silva sub.
Right, you know what I mean? So there's times that we will specify, but as far as these picks are concerned, this is just talking money line, okay? So if you have been following us money line bet for bet, 8 fights per card the last 2 weeks, you are 13-4, which means you've won some money.
Yes.
So that being said, good luck. Watch the fights. Thank you, Alexis, as always. It's been a pleasure. The graphics thing seemed to work out. I don't have to edit too much. This is awesome. Fantastic, everybody. We've gone for 1 hour and 28 minutes. That's perfect. This is all stuff.
We'll see you guys next time.
Oh wait, I forgot. I have an outro, dude. So everybody, we'll see you next time.